Hi everyone, if you've been on this channel for a while, you'll know how big of a proponent I am with journaling and mapping for reflection. Today, I want to share with you 8 lessons that I have distilled over the last year, which honestly has felt like 10 years in the making. Let's dive in. Number 1, I want to form a relationship with everything in life. And it's not just with people, but with things and cities as well. I think relationships is what nourishes us over time. These are things that we can grow roots into and actually care about. Without relationships, why care about life? And what I mean by relationships, let's say with cities, this year I was away from Austin for 4 months, just traveling abroad in China and Laos and California. And when I returned, all of my friends gave me a hug, and on 3 separate occasions, they said, "Welcome home." You think about a relationship, it's a two-way street. You have to love it, but the other side will love you back and miss you when you're gone. And related to that is nothing is disposable. I don't want to feel in this materialistic world where everything is so cheap and so mass produced that even these things can just be throwaways. I can form a relationship with this shirt. It doesn't matter how expensive or how cheap it is, but the fact that I love it, the fact that I care about it, is what brings meaning and value. In this way, we can generate our own value, and it does not take a lot. Number 2 is don't struggle. This I learned from going through depression this year, where after my divorce left such a big hole in my life, where I'm someone who's not very prone to depression, and I have so much activation energy that I just love starting new things, new relationships, new projects that makes me feel alive. But this year was really humbling in that every single time I try to start something new, it would be this big activation energy and then slow death. After 3-4 times of this, I realized that I was just going on half fuel tank on the journey. So of course I'm gonna run out of fuel along the way. And this was when I realized that the best way to deal with life is to realize that we're not really in control of everything. And the best thing to do is just to lean back, relax, and float for a while. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the harder it is, the faster you sink. So better to just float and then drift your way to shore. That's exactly how I got out of it. I literally just stopped trying to start new things and stopped trying to inject more energy into it and just let things be. Which brings us to number 3, enjoy the journey. So much of my life has been goal-oriented. In this mentality, I realized I was really missing the 98% of the journey, because if achieving the goal is only 2%, you get that big high, then that means I'm not really paying attention to the vast majority of the actual living. I really realized that was quite foolish. And in signing up for the marathon this time versus 5 years ago, the intention is to enjoy the journey. And how we do that is part of life design. I'm designing my training around, let's say, running to my favorite cafes, meeting up with friends. This way I have something to look forward to at the end of every run. But even during the runs themselves, I'm like taking a look at all of the trees, the light that is coming through, the sunset, the water, and it's just so enjoyable. Number 4 is presence versus performance. So much of life these days is based on performance. Everything from grade school to high school, college, work, we're paid and rewarded for what we do, not necessarily who we are. Yet, going into the age of AI, where the machines are starting to outperform even the best of us, then what is the point? I think this year, through the depression, through enjoying the journey, through just like letting go of a lot of things, letting go of performance, I realized that my true value is actually in my presence, in the way that I'm able to sit with somebody, to create that space, to just ask them the right questions at the right time and reflect back their inner world. And I believe that all of us have our respective gifts that is sometimes hidden away brushed aside in the pursuit of performance. These days, I don't even prepare that much for my client calls anymore. I know that what I'm being rewarded for is my ability to step in to the field, to the space that I create. This is very much related to what is natural versus what is artificial, or internal versus external. Nobody can ever compete with you because you are only one of a kind. So in many ways, in the age of AI, I really do believe that using technology to amplify our effect, amplify our presence, if you will. At the end of the day, us humans are still inspired by those who have blazed the path before us. You can get the best answer from ChatGPT, but if it's not walked upon, if not tested by another human being, it's kind of useless or meaningless. Number 5 is use time as a container. Don't let time control you. When I was running my 2-week sprints, I had the saying, which is, even though I felt like I was the master of time, I was simultaneously a slave to it. Because if I'm always on the clock, if I'm always like rushing to finish something, that means the ticking time is always on my mind, down to the 25-minute Pomodoros or 60 seconds in a minute. And at some point during this year, I got so good at counting during my meditations from 1 to 25 that I would be counting all the time. It would be incessant. That was when I knew that I needed to just let go of counting. I needed to let go of tracking and just to be. However, at the same time, that drifting was really nice for depression. But once I got out of it, I realized that, hey, in order to exist in our real world, I still needed to have track time, known as Chronos time versus Kairos time, which is presence. That's when I started to realize that time can be the frame, right? Chronos time can be the frame for Kairos time, that I can get things done in a particular time frame. Going back to my consulting work, these days I intentionally procrastinate, where I know I'm going to be having a 2-hour workshop, and therefore I'm not going to over prep. Again, my presence is what's valuable, which leads to better performance. Instead of over prepping, I just carve out that particular morning, that container of 3 hours before the workshop, so hyper focused, and then I'm just banging it out. Not only does it feel more natural in the moment because I'm forced to be, I'm not thinking through all of the different structures and plans and notes I've had. I'm just there. I'm trusting myself as well that I will know what to say, will know what to pull out when the time is right. And that takes a bit of courage as well. Number 6 is you can make life art. The meaning of life is whatever you make it to be. And number 2, your life's art is complete when it is appreciated by the right people. What that means is having an intention about what you want to do with your life, and then surrounding yourself with people who actually see you, who respect you, who appreciate you. If you have these 2 components, life is going to be meaningful. It's actually very, very simple. And in the heart of that is also taking the time to know thyself, know yourself, so that you know your true intentions. This is why I do so much reflection through writing and mapping every day. Buddhists believe that humans are naturally good, and if you remove the bad, the good will naturally emerge. I don't necessarily try to be good or disciplined or whatever it is. It's more that I try to mitigate what I call the 4 horsemen in my life, and they all start with S. They are sugar, streaming, shopping, and sex. If I'm able to mitigate these 4 horsemen through my system, through my process, then the good will naturally emerge. So then the question is, what are your bad habits? What are some of the things that you want to mitigate? I would actually focus on mitigating those, and then seeing how much energy, how much time, how much focus and goodwill will emerge when you're able to get those things under control. If you need some help around addiction, because I think we're all addicted to something, definitely check out the notes on the best dopamine podcast of this year. Number 8 We are and functions, not or in mathematical. Or is mutual exclusive and is a sum of all our parts. You are not just an engineer, you're not just a doctor, you're not just a plumber, but you are also an artist, you're also a singer, an athlete. All of these different components together make up who you are, your identity. And I'm not talking about a set identity, I'm talking about a fluid identity. I mind map because I like to see the connections between things and I like to break down the silos of my own being. In my professional life, I've worked for 10 different companies across 3 continents and every single company was a different role. In a professional sense, when I approach a problem, I have like 10 thinking brains, a console of 10 different mindsets that's looking at one problem 10 different perspectives, which mitigates a lot of blind spots. In my personal life, it is really combining nature, video, film, writing, mapping, music, sound, into an experience of expression. That's why I take the time to, bring all my camera stuff and set up outside. It's definitely a bit of a challenge, but I think it's totally worth it because going back to making life art, making it so uniquely you, because you're combining all the different components and linking them together. All right, everyone. I love sharing these 9 lessons with you today. Every day is ripe for reflection. If you want to join the Substack, I run a monthly meetup and would love to meet you in person. All right, guys, until next time, take care.